So today we're going to do something exciting. This topic has been quite a popular request, and today I finally have the opportunity to create this tutorial for you. We're gonna create a magazine style website from scratch using Gutenberg blocks, and in particular the Kadence theme and Kadence blocks. And we're gonna use the Kadence Pro theme as well as the Kadence Blocks Pro. It is not possible to create a magazine site with just the free theme and blocks, unfortunately. I've tried to do that but failed, and if you have managed to do so, feel free to share your tips in the comments. So if you don't have the Kadence Pro theme and Blocks Pro, I recommend that you get the full Kadence membership because you get a lot more than the theme and the blocks plugin. You can check out the full membership using this link for the latest discounts. Now before we get into the details, if you could smash that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm and let me know in the comments what you think about this tutorial, I would greatly appreciate that. So this is going to be a long tutorial. I won't waste any more of your time, so let's go. So the site we're building will look like this. We'll have a grid of images here, and as we hover to the images, it will have this effect. And if we minimize it to the mobile size, this section is gone because we want people to focus on the top stories, for example. And as you scroll down, you will see this recent post sidebar that will stick to the site. And then we have this category section with a hero story and a few other stories at the bottom. Then we have the latest stories here. And if you scroll down further, the sidebar will stop sticking. And then we have a section here with the tabs of categories and with a separate sidebar. And then finally, the footer will look like this. So this video is going to be long since you are building this site from scratch, so I will go into creating section by section. We'll first focus on the installation and settings, and then we'll focus on the header and menu. After that, we'll get into this grid section over here. And then the elements on the page, which are all these items over here, followed by the sticky sidebar, and then this section here, and finally the footer. So there will be a total of 6 sections. Feel free to use the timestamps at the description to maneuver around this video. So we are on a WordPress dashboard, and let's see what theme is installed on this site. Let's go to Appearance and Themes. So as you can see, the default 2021 theme is installed, but what we want is the Kadence theme, so let's add new. And on the sidebar on the right, let's search for Kadence. This is the theme we want to install. Let's click on Install and Activate. And then as a good housekeeping practice, I'll remove all other unnecessary themes. Now this is done, let's add the plugins. Let's go to Plugins. Installed plugins. As you can see, there is no plugin installed on this site, so let's add new. Let's first search for Kadence. We need the free Kadence blocks, and this is the one. This is developed by Kadence WP. Let's install this and activate. Next, we need the Kadence Pro theme as well as the Blocks Pro. And to install those plugins, you need to purchase them first. And once you have purchased them, you need to go into your account. And under Product Downloads, you need to download the Blocks Pro as well as the Kadence Pro plugin. So once downloaded, let's go back to our WordPress dashboard, and then let's go to Plugins, Add New, and let's click on Upload Plugin, choose a file, and let's install the Kadence Pro theme first, and let's activate. Next, let's install the Blocks Pro. Let's choose File, select Blocks Pro and install. Let's activate the plugin and we are done. Next, we have to activate the Pro theme as well as the Blocks Pro. So let's click on this, and then you have to go to your account, and under the product API keys, you should be able to get the license keys to the products. So once you have copied the API key, let's go back to your WordPress dashboard, and over here you want to paste in your license key as well as the license email, and let's activate. Next, let's activate the Blocks Pro. Let's go back to your account. Once you copy the API key, let's go back here and paste in the license key as well as the email and activate. And we're done. Next, for any magazine style website to work, we need content and we need categories as well. So in this tutorial, we will have 4 categories, and in each of them, we will add 3 articles and insert feature image to each of them. So we'll first add the categories. So let's go to Posts, and under Categories, So the first category we want to add is finance. Let's just add a new category. Next is health. And then photography. And finally travel. Next we want to add content. So let's go to all posts. And let's add new. So let me show you one example and then I will fast forward this process. So let's close this off. First thing first, we want to add a header. Next, we want to add a dummy content. And on the right, you'll see this post here. We want to click this. If you don't see this section over here, you need to click on this settings here and this will appear. So let's click on post and let's select featured image. We want to set a featured image. Let's select files and let's select this image. Now, if you want to use these dummy content and images as a way of practice, I've left a link in the description for you to download them. So let's set featured image. And we are basically done with this. Let's publish this. Now, there's one more thing I forgot to do. We have to select the categories. And then for this, we want to select finance. And let's update. So this article belongs to the category of finance. Next, let me fast forward the process as I add 11 more articles. And we're basically done. We have 12 articles split into 4 categories. Now let's go to the theme customizer. Let's go to appearance and let's click on customize. So now let's customize the color palette of the website for convenience. So let's go to general and colors. And as you can see here, this is the global color palette. And the best way to explain this is actually an article from Kadence. So basically the accents are simply the brand color of your website. So for example, if you take note over here, these are the links. If I change this to maybe orange, you can see the link here has changed to orange. And if we want to change the hover color, we can change it here. Let's say it's red color. So as you can see, we can see the difference here. And if we hover here, it becomes red as well. So basically this is the hover color. And for this strongest text, basically it represents the heading color here. So if we click on this and we change the color, you will see this change as well. So we'll leave it as the darkest color. And then for this strong text, basically it represents all the text over here. So if we click on this and we change it, you can see the color of the text has changed over here. So what we want is still the black color. We'll leave it as this. So I'm not quite sure about the medium text and the subtle text. You may want to explore that because I don't really use that. And then as for these 3 colors over here, as explained, these are the background colors. So for example, if we click onto one of the articles, if we want to change the background color, this content area is changed to this. And for this other 2, you may want to explore this. I'm pretty sure it is the content header depending on the layout you choose. So you may want to play around with the colors here. So this is the gist of it. And once this is done, let's click on publish. And the next thing we want to do is to add a new page and set that page as a home page for the website. So let's click on this to go back to the WordPress dashboard. And let's go to pages, add new. Let's call this home. And let's just publish a blank page. Don't worry about the content of this page. That's the reason why I want to publish this as a blank page. So let's head back to the WordPress dashboard. Let's go to settings, under reading. Over here, your homepage displays. Let's select a static page. And for the home page, we want to select the home. So the reason why I publish a blank page is because I want this home page to show here. If you don't publish that, this home page will not show. So let's click on this and let's save changes. So before everything else, let me show you the difference. Let's say the settings was your latest post. Let's save changes first. Now, if we go to the live website, you will see that the latest posts are displayed. And that's not what we want. We want to style a completely blank page. So what we need to do is to go to the WordPress dashboard again, and let's select the static page, select this home page, and let's save changes. And as we refresh this, we'll see the blank page over here. Now there's one more thing we need to do before we close off this segment. Let's go to appearance and under Kadence, let's scroll down. We want to ensure the hook elements is set on. We want to turn this header add-ons as well. And then we want to turn on this ultimate menu as well. And if we take note over here, let's refresh this. You should see these elements here, and this is one of the most important things we need to use for this magazine style website. So we are basically done with all the necessary settings. Let's now focus on the header. So now let's focus on the header area, and to customize that, let's go to Appearance and Customize. So as you can see, there is this header. We are basically customizing this area over here. So let's click on this, and then this logo represents this my WordPress. So let's click on this. Let's add a logo. Let's upload files, select files, and then this is the logo. Let's click on that, and let's select this. Skip cropping, and we can see the logo here. So now as you can see, there is this logo and then this text over here, which basically means this logo and title. We just want the logo. And then because this logo is too big, so maybe we want to change it to 80 pixels. Now, if I want to change the alignment of this logo to the middle, all we need to do is to click and drag this logo over to the middle. And you'll see it here. And then if you want to make this menu right below this logo, all we need to do is to click and drag this primary navigation to below the logo. And you will see it here. So now let's edit this menu. Let's click on this, and the settings of the menu will appear here. So what we want to do is to select menu. And because this is a completely new website, we don't have any menu setup. So what we need to do is to click on create new menu. And then let's give the menu a name. And then let's select for mobile as well. And then next, let's add the menu items. So we want to add a homepage link. So let's click on this plus, and you'll see it added here. So next we want to add a category link. So we can either select this categories and we add this here. If not, if you have a page that you want to add in future, but you do not have a page created for it yet, all you need to do is to go to custom links, and under URL, because you don't have the page set up yet, so you don't have any URL. So all you need to do is to add in the hashtag, and then for the link text, for example, you want to put it as health. So in future, when you have a page set up for this health, you can add the URL here. So let's add to menu. So this is just for an example. So we'll delete this off. All we need is the categories. We want to add the health, the photography, the travel, and that's basically it. Let's publish, and we're done. Now I want to change the background of this menu to black. So all we need to do is to go back. Let's select header. And then if we see the settings over here for the bottom row where the primary navigation is, let's click on that. Let's go to design. Under the bottom row background, let's click on this and let's change the color to black. And you'll see this changed. And then to change the menu color, let's go back again. Sorry, under header, let's go to general, and under primary navigation, let's click on this arrow, and under design, we want to change this navigation color to white. And then the hover color is this orange, as you can see over here. And for this active color, which is this home over here, which you can't see because this is black on black. So we want to change this color to white, or maybe to the orange. And we're basically done here. So let's go back to general. If you want to stretch the menu, just toggle this and you will see this stretched. And you can play around with this as well. And you can play around with the item spacing, as you can see. So I'll put this as maybe 3. And then let's go back to the design again. If I want to add underline here, as we hover, all we need to do is click on underline and you'll see this here. And if we want to stretch this menu bar, we need to toggle this. As you can see, it stretches. So I want to put this as maybe 1. Now let's add a logo to the menu item. So what we need to do is to go to this cross. Let's open up a new tab. And under appearance, we want to go to menus. And then we want to expand each of this menu item and click on this menu item settings. Now, if you haven't activated the mega menu, which is over at the Kadence, if you haven't activated this ultimate menu, this button will not show. So you have to activate that. So let's click on this, and then over here, since this is a home item, let's search for home. Let's select this and let's save. And let's close this. Let's refresh and you'll see this home icon here. So let's do the rest. Let's go to finance, menu item settings. Let's search for dollar. Let's select this, save this, and let's refresh this and you'll see it here. As for the health, let's search for heart. Let's select this. And for photography, let's search for camera. And for travel, let's search for plane. And let's select this. And let's save. And as we refresh, all these icons are here. So we're basically done with the header. Now let's focus on the image grid. So now we're gonna create an image grid like this, and this is actually hanging on top of the main content over here. And this is achievable with the hook elements from the Kadence Pro theme. So let's go back to our WordPress dashboard. Under appearance, you will see these elements here. Let's click on this and let's add a new element. So we want to select default because we want to style the elements with Gutenberg blocks. And for example, if the hook elements is a fixed item, if you want to stick a hook element at the bottom right here, you want to select fixed. And if you want to style the element with quotes, you can select this. But in our case, we will select default. So this is just like the WordPress editor. We will first want to add a title for this element. Let's say page hero. And then next, let's click on this, add block. Let's select row layout. If you don't see a row layout here, just search for RWO and you'll see it here. Let's select this. And what we want is a 2-column row layout. So let's click on this. Next, let's look over to the right under the block here. We'll go through all the settings one by one. So on the desktop version, we want it to have 2 columns. In case you want to adjust the mobile view, all you need to do is to select this. And you'll see these 2 rows stacking on top of each other like this. But for this purpose, we want to hide this section on mobile, which I will show you how to do it in a while. So let's go back to desktop. For the column gutter, we want it to have a 30 pixels. Column gutter is basically this little space over here between the 2 columns. This is actually 30 pixels. So we want to leave it as that. Let's go to padding and margin. Now let me explain padding and margin later on when I add elements to this row layout, because it's very hard for me to explain it without any elements. So for these settings, let's put this top padding as 0. And for the bottom padding, we want to put it as 0 as well. And as for the margin, I want to put this as 50. And then for the background settings, we will not do anything to it. This as well. Border settings, we'll leave it as it is. Let's go to structure settings. So what we want to do is to toggle this on. So even though if this row layout is full width, the content of the row layout will follow the max width of the theme. And then next, let's click on this, change alignment. We want to set this as full width, and we are basically done for this row layout. Now over here on the left, we want to click on this add block and let's browse all. We want to select this image overlay, which is an element from the Blocks Pro. So if you don't have the Kadence Blocks Pro installed on this side, you will not have this. So I will select this. And then let's add a title to it. And then let's add a subtitle to it. And let's upload an image. We can use this. Let's select this. And here we go. This is how it looks like. So if you want to adjust the settings of this, all you need to do is to look over to the right. And here are all the settings. For the hover effect, you can put as zoom in. You can put it as slide. You can put it as grayscale or blur. So I'll keep it as zoom in. And if you want to have a ratio for the size of this image, all you need to do is to toggle this. And for this is a square 1:1, which is commonly used on Facebook. And you can select maybe a landscape of 4:3 or 16:9. It's really up to you how you want to do this. So for me, I will keep this as 3 by 2, where the length is 3 by a ratio of 2 for the width. Next, you can adjust the hover overlay settings. Maybe you want to change the color to your brand color. Maybe change the transparency to maybe 0.5. So this will match your brand color. And then for the border settings, this border thickness is basically this border over here. If we increase the number to maybe 10, you can see this border will become this thick, which is not something we want unless you want it to look like this. So we'll keep it as 2. And then this border position from edge is basically this little space here in between the end of the image to this border. So if you increase this to maybe 50, you'll see it like this. But we'll keep it as 10. I think this looks nice. And then let's go to the text alignment. We can change the vertical alignment to center, which is this over here. Or maybe you want to change it to top. It's really up to you, but I'll keep it as center. The horizontal alignment as well, you can change it to left or right. And you can basically play with the settings here. For the title settings, we'll keep the title color as white. The title background, let's say we want to add a little background like this. It's really up to you, but I choose to keep it as transparent. You can adjust the font size. You don't need to adjust the line height unless your header has 2 lines. So for example, finance tips. So if you want to adjust the line height, you'll see that it spreads out. So we don't need this because it's only 1 line. For the font family, we'll keep this as system default. And as for the title and subtitle divider, we'll keep it as none. You can basically add maybe a solid line in the middle like this. If you want the line to be thicker, you can put maybe 5 and you can see the difference here. But we don't want this. So you can play around with this, it's really up to you. And for the subtitle settings, you can change the HTML tag, you can change the subtitle color, the background and all this stuff over here. The font family will keep it as system default. And animate on scroll. Basically, we don't want to have an animation because it will usually slow down the website because it takes more time to load, especially when this item is above the fold. So I'll keep this as none. And we are basically done with these settings for the image overlay. Next, we want to add this for image overlay here. And the settings for this would need to be exactly the same as this. So let's go back. Let's click on this add block. Let's add another row layout here. Let's put this as 2 columns and then let's add an image overlay. So what we want to do is to click on the previous image overlay. Actually, let's click on this options and let's copy this. Let's go over here. Let's delete this first, but let's add maybe a paragraph so that we can paste the image overlay here. And here we go. So to adjust the settings for this, let's click on this block. Let's change the title to travel and let's change the subtitles to smart travel tips, for example, and let's edit the media, which is the image. Let's select this. And here we go. Now, for example, if you want to send your audience to the travel category page, remember we have set up a category page. So let's hover over to this WordPress and right click, open link in new tab. So we'll be able to go to the WordPress dashboard. Let's go to posts under categories. You see all these categories here. Each of them have their own URL. So if you click on view, this is basically the travel category page. So if you want to send people to this page after they have clicked on the image overlay, all you need to do is to copy this URL. Otherwise, you can go to these categories, right click, copy link address, and go back to your element, click on this travel image overlay and paste the link here. And that's basically it. So let's do the same thing. Let's click on this under more options. Let's copy and over here, add block, add a paragraph, right click, paste. And we have another image overlay here. So over here, we want to change this to health. And for the subtitle, we want to change it to easy dieting tips. And let's change the image to this, for example. Let's select this and let's change the link. Let's go back to the categories page, right click on this view, copy link, go back to the element and paste the link here. Next, under this plus, we want to add another block and we want to select row layout and we want to select 2 columns as well. Sorry, I've added this on the wrong column. What we want to do is to add a row layout on this entire column here. So Let's remove this block. So let's click out of this row layouts. So we can see this blue area here. We want to select this section and let's click on this add block. Let's select row layout again and select these 2 columns. So now you can see that these 2 containers are symmetrical to the one at the top. So let's do the same thing. Click on this, click on more options. Let's copy this over here. Click on add block, paragraph, and paste it here. Now let's change the title to photography and the subtitle to this. And let's change the image as well as the link. Let's go to the categories, right click on the view, copy link address, and then let's paste it here. Next, let's do the same thing again. And we're basically done. Let's publish this first and see how it looks like. Now let me put the editor and the live page side by side so it's easier for you to see. So right now it looks like this on the desktop, and we want to remove some space here and put this closer to each other. So let's go back here. Now let me first explain padding and margin, and the best way for me to do it is through an example here. So let's say I close this off, open this wider. Let's click on this. Under image overlay, you can see all the layers over here. Let's select this row layout. So now let's add a border, and this is only for illustration purpose. So let's say the border, we want to have it maybe 3, and the color, we want to change the color of the border to black so that we can see the differences. Now, let's go to padding and margin. And for example, if I want to add a top padding is basically the space inside of the element. So for example, the space between this border to this image here, that's a padding. So for example, as I change the numbers here, just keep a lookout on this space over here. So if I put maybe 100, you can see that the space over here widens by 100 pixels. And if we want to add a right padding, which is over here, for example, I want to put this as 100. You can see there is a 100 spacing over here. So this is basically padding, which is all the spaces in between this element itself. So every element layer will have its own padding and margin. For example, if I click on this, and then if I go to this section, which is basically this section over here highlighted with the blue border. If we want to set this border as maybe 3 and make it black, you can see that this border over here, we can basically change the padding here as well. So if you scroll down further, you can see this top padding. If I put 100 here, you can see that the gap widens here. So this is basically padding. Now there's a big difference between padding and margin. So margin is basically whatever there is outside of this element. So for example, now I've selected this section layer over here, which is this. And if I add a margin of maybe 100, you will see that this gap will widen up even more. So for example, let's do this. You can see that this entire section here has been pushed down. So the margin controls whatever there is outside of this section that you've selected, and the padding controls whatever there is inside. So for example, if I want to shift this entire section down, for example, let's click on this row layout so that this big section here is selected. Let's click on this padding and margin. Let's select this margin and let's maybe add 150, and you will see that this entire section will be pushed down. You can see that. And if you want to shift it up, you can even put a negative figure. So for example, we put -50, and this entire section will be moved up. So for the padding, there is no negative figure because you can't shift the element inside of it out of the box. But for the margin, you can have a negative figure. So I hope this is easy for you to understand. I've added a border so just you can see what is the difference between a padding and margin. So for our case, the margin, I want to have it as 50. And for the padding, I want it to be 0. This is 0 as well. And then for the border, I don't want any border, so let's remove this. And as for this section layer here, I want to remove this border as well. And as for the padding, put it as 0 and the margin as 0 as well. So let's click on this and see why is there a gap between this and this. As you can see here, this is not aligned properly. So let's click on this. Let's select this row layout, and under padding and margin, you see there is this top 25 padding represented by this. So if we change this to 0, you can see this shift up. And for the bottom as well, we don't want this gap to be so wide, so we'll just put it as 0 as well. And because there is a 25 padding on this section, so let's click on this and let's go to the row layout. So as you can see at the bottom here, basically all web elements are layers stacked on top of layers and stacked on top of layers. So this is how it works. So we have, for example, a row layout section here, stacked on top of the big row layout, which is this big section over here. So this is something you need to understand as well as you're building up pages. So let's click on this, let's select this row layout, and let's go to the padding and margin, remove this top padding, and remove the bottom padding. And let's update this. And if we go to the page and let's refresh this, you see that this is basically pushed up, but there is no gutter here. So we need to add some padding in the middle. So you can either add the padding of this, or you can add a padding for the bottom row layout. So for example, let's click on this. Let's go to the row layout. Let's add a padding of maybe 30 at the bottom. Let's update this and refresh. You should see some space over here. So that's basically it for this hook elements. Now we need to hook this element to your page. Sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. Let me show you. Let's go back to the editor. And then over here under element settings, let's click on this. For the placement, you want to scroll down further and put after header. So let me show you what is a header. Basically, a header is this: the logo, the menu. This is considered a header. So we want to hook this element below the header right here. So let's go back, select after header. And under display settings, we want to change this to the front page only, unless you want to hook this element to the entire site. So all the blogs, all the pages will have this element here. So it's really up to you. But for this case, I'll just put it as the front page. And then for the device settings, we only want to show this section if the user is on desktop. And if the user is on mobile, I want to hide this. So let's select this, and I want to show on device only on desktop. So let's update, and then let's go to the page. Let's remove this. And as we enter this, this will be the live view of the page. And as you can see, this entire element here is hooked to the page. And if we reduce it to the mobile view, it will be gone. So this is basically how this works. I hope this is easy for you to understand how hook elements work. The next thing we want to do is to add elements to the page itself. So let's see the completed page. This is the completed page. We want to add this post carousel here, and then let's scroll down further. We'll do this sticky sidebar later, but what we want to do is to focus on whatever that is here. We'll have this 2 category section here with all these post snippets as well as the latest stories. So let's go to the next segment. So now let's go back to our WordPress dashboard. So this is our element page, and let's click on this to go back to the WordPress dashboard. Now let's go to the pages and all pages. So we have created this home page. Let us edit this. Now let's edit the page settings. Let's go to the top right here under page settings. Let's click on this. And then over here, the page title. Let me reduce the size of this so we can see the live page. So as we can see over here, this is the page title, and we want to disable this so that we will not see this here. Next, let's expand this out a little so we can have a desktop view. So now we want a right sidebar over here. So let's click on this, and then we are basically done with the settings. You can play around with all this after you add some elements to it. So let's update this. And if we go to the live page, and when we refresh, we should see this home section gone. Let's refresh. And here we are. We have a default sidebar over here. Next, let's go over to the WordPress editor. Let's click on this add block. Let's select this row layout. We want to have this one column, and then let's add a block again. Let's search for advanced heading. And here we go. This is the one we need. Let's click on this. Now let's add a title, top stories. And then remember, for this, we need a blue border here. So let's go back to the page. Let's select this section here, and then let's click on this settings to go to the block settings. And then over here, the border width, for the top border width, we want to put maybe 5. And then for the border color, we want to change it to maybe blue color like this. Now, in case you're not seeing this and you're seeing a combined border width like this, you want to click on this to expand out all the border sections so that you can control each individual border. So as we update this and refresh, you should see something over here like this. Now let's add the post carousel. So over here, within the same row layout layer, we want to add a block. And let's browse all. We want to select this post grid carousel. This is from the Blocks Pro plugin as well. And this is a very important block that we use all over this magazine style website. So let's select this. And there are 4 styles that you can select. So for us, we want to select this. And then let's edit the settings for this. So since post grid layer is selected, let's click on this settings. Now you can basically display the post, or you can display pages or elements over here. But for us, because this is a magazine style website, most of the time we will be displaying posts. And then for the query, we can either select by categories or by individually. So if you select individually, you can basically select the post that you want, like for example this. So only one will be displayed, and you can add several others as well. But for this case, we want to have the top stories, so we want to select query instead. And then for the number of items, we want, for example, 5 top stories. And then you can either filter by category or filter by tag. So for this section, we basically want to show the top stories. And how do we display the top stories is by using tags. So let me give you an example. Let's go back to the WordPress dashboard. So let's go to posts and select all posts. So over here, within all these posts, you can set which are the top stories. So for example, if I want to select best yoga locations as one of the top stories, let's click on this quick edit. And then for the tags, so for example, this month is April. So I will tag it as April so that we know this is the top stories for April. And then let's update. And so we have this tag here. And then let's select a few more. So for example, this tips for capturing close-up is another top story. Let's do a quick edit. Let's add the same tag as well. Let's update. And let's select a few more. This one, let's quick edit this. And let's update. And a few more. So we have basically selected 3 posts as our top stories for April, and the tag we are going to use is this APR. So let's go back to the page editor, and then over here, filter by tag. We need to update this page and refresh it before the tags will appear. So let's update this and let's refresh. And then let's click on the post carousel again, and then over here, filter by tag. As you click on this, the tags should appear for you to select. So let's select APR. You'll see that all the posts with the APR tag will be shown here. So whatever you want to display on a post carousel, all you need to do is either to categorize them or you add a tag to them. I hope this is easy for you to understand. Let's move forward. Let's scroll down further. Let's select this layout settings. So you can either display a grid, which is something like this. It will display all the grids here. Or you can select masonry or carousel, and carousel is the one that we need. Let's select this. Let's scroll down further. So you can actually control the autoplay speed. And let's go to the columns first. So over here, there are 2 columns, and that is not what we want. We want to have it as 1 column. So you see the carousel will look like this. And then the arrow style, you can basically play with this. This is white on dark, which means this arrow is white on a dark background. Or you can play around with the black on light. It really depends on what you want. So I'll keep it as white on dark, and then let's scroll down further under post container. So up to here, let's update this first and let's refresh. And as you can see, there's some padding over here and over here. So let's change the padding. So let's change this to linked, and then let's remove all the padding. Let's update, and you'll see all this padding being filled up. Let's refresh, and all the padding is gone. As you can see, this is aligned to this section. And now as you can see, there is this very faint border over here. So this is basically this container border width. So let's remove this, update this and refresh. We shouldn't see any border. And that's exactly what we need. And then for the header settings, we want to change this background here to black. So let's change this color to black. And let's update, refresh. So now we want to change the title color to white. So under title settings, we want to change this title color to white. And we can see that the title has turned white. Let's update this and refresh. And it is over here. So now we want to align this text to center. So let's scroll up further. And you can see over here, post container text alignment. We want to change it to center. And as you can see, everything is centralized. Let's update this and refresh. And this is aligned to the center. Now let's scroll down further the settings. Under the footer settings, can maybe add a border of maybe 1 so that we can see there is a border. Let's select a color, maybe this color. And you can see this border over here, but we don't want this. So let's remove this. And if we don't want this tag to show, let's scroll down further. Under the footer meta, let's toggle this off and you'll see this tag gone. Let's open this up. So basically we can show author, we can remove this by so that only the author name is shown, and then we can either show category or we can remove this category. And if we want to show this category and we want to change this text, it's totally up to you. And you can add a meta divider, for example like this. And then for the meta color, we want to change this to white as well. And for the link color, this is the link color. This is not the meta color, okay? So for the link color, we want it to be this accent color. And then as we hover, the hover color should be this color. As you can see, or maybe the meta color, we can change it to the orange as well. So this is basically how you edit all the stuff. All the settings for this post carousel is all on the right. All you need to do is to click on this post carousel and click on this settings and you can actually edit everything here. So this is done. Let's update and refresh and you'll see it here. Now this auto scroll is a little distracting, so let's remove the auto scroll. So under the carousel autoplay, let's toggle this off and let's update this and refresh. And now this post carousel is still. Now let's go to our completed page. What we want is these 2 sections over here. And then within each category section, we want to have these 3 post snippets here. So let's go back to our page editor. And then let's click over here. We want to make sure that we are on the right layer. So the base layer is the document. And then on top of that, we have selected the paragraph. And that's what we need. Okay, the paragraph can be changed to anything. So let's click on this add block. Let's select row layout. And we want to have 2 columns. Now, first thing over here, we want to add a block. Let's select this post grid carousel. We want to select the first template and then let's edit this. Firstly, we want to have 1 column. So let's go down to the layer settings. Under the columns, we want to put this as 1. And then at the top, we want the post type as post. And for this query, we want to have it individually. So let's select post. So for this, we want the photography category. So let's select this, tips for capturing close-up. And let's select this. And here we are. Now the same thing, we want to add a heading here. But if we select this, we can't actually add something here. So we need to scroll down. We see this add block. Let's add a heading here. See this advanced heading. Let's select this. And let's add a heading, let's say, photography, and we need to shift this up. So all we need to do is to click on this move up arrow and this heading will move up on top of the post carousel. So now for the color of this heading, we want to change this to this accent color and then we want to add a line on top here. So let's select section and then under the border width, the top border width, we want to put this as 5 and for the border color, we want to select this accent color. Now let's update this first and see how it looks like on the live site. So there is this border here that we have to remove and then this tag we have to remove as well. And maybe we want to shorten this excerpt. So let's go to the page editor. Let's click on this. Let's go to the post container. For the border width, we want to remove this. We want to click on this to make it transparent. And then let's scroll down further. Under the excerpt, we want to toggle this, enable custom excerpt length. Let's shorten this, so maybe 20. And let's scroll down further. Under the footer meta, we want to toggle show text off. So now we want to change the color of the heading to match the accent color. So let's scroll to title settings. Under the title color, let's select this accent. And then we want to remove this metadata. So let's scroll to this below title meta. Let's toggle this off. And then next we want to add a border over here. So let's go up to the post container. Let's go to this footer settings. And for the border width, let's open this up by selecting this individual. And you'll see all the selections here. So over here at the bottom, we want to add maybe a border width of maybe 2. And then let's change the color to this so that we have this border over here. And then we want to add some padding to it. So for the padding, let's select this individual as well. For the bottom padding, we want to add maybe 10 or maybe 20. You'll see that there are some spaces in between this border and the text. So let's update this and refresh on the live page. And we have this here. So now we want to add the 3 post snippets here. So over here, let's add a block and let's select post grid carousel. Now we want to select this template. So over here under layout settings, we want to change this to 1. And let's go through the settings one by one. So over here, number of items, we want to put 3. Then let's scroll down further under this filter by categories, because this category is basically photography. So we want all this posts to be related to photography. So let's select this category and select photography. And you'll see all the posts related to photography here. Now let's scroll down further under layout settings. For the column gap, we want to put maybe 10. And for the row gap, we'll change it to maybe 20. So the row gap is basically the gap between here. And for the column gap is the gap between here. Now let's go to the post container. Let's open this padding up. So for the left padding, we want to add maybe 25 pixels. So you'll see the gap widen a little bit more. Let's scroll down further. We can actually add a box shadow if we want. So you see there's a shadow over here. And now we need to remove all this over here. So let's scroll down. So now let us update this first and refresh to see how this looks like. So as we scroll down, we can see that the image is not squared. So we want to change that. We don't want the box shadow and we need to remove all this and maybe make the title a little bit smaller. So over on the page editor, let's remove this box shadow. And then let's go to image settings. Image width, we can put it as 40. That's fine. But the image ratio, we need to change it to square. 1:1. And then for the title settings, let's click on this title typography. Let's change the font size to maybe 20. And then let's scroll down further. Font family, we will select the system default. And for the below title meta, we will toggle this off. And for the excerpt as well, we'll toggle this off. So you'll basically see this looking like this. Let's update this and refresh. And we have this looking quite decent. Now to separate this column from the next column we're going to create, let's add a box shadow to this entire section. So over at the page editor, let's select the section layer. And then over here under the settings, let's toggle this box shadow on. And let's update, refresh, and we are basically done. Now the image here is sticking to the corner and that's not what we want. We want to add some padding here as well as to the photography here. So let's scroll up. Let's go to the photography title first. Let's add some padding, or maybe we just need to align this to the center. So this is done. Now let's go to the post list. Let's select this layer. Let's scroll down to post container. Sorry, let's go down further. Let's go to the image settings. Over at the image padding, we want to open this up. And then for this left padding, we want to add maybe a 25 pixels. And let's refresh this. Don't worry about the look on this. What matters is how it looks on the live site. So this is too small. I think there are a lot of padding that reduces the size of the image. So for example, over here on the right padding, let's remove this and let's update, refresh, and here we go. Now let's add some padding to the bottom. So over here, the image padding, let's add some. Let's increase this number to maybe 25, update and refresh. And we are basically done here. So if you want to reduce the space over here, let's go to the page editor. Let's scroll up all the way to the layout settings. Let's expand this. And then the row gap, we want to reduce this number to maybe 10 or maybe even 5. So let's update this and refresh. We can see the gap narrowing. Now maybe we want to add the post date, otherwise this will look very empty. So let's go down to the below title meta. Let's show date and let's update, refresh, and we are basically done here. So now we want to replicate this entire section over here. So what we need to do is to select the section layer. Let's select this and then let's go to the section layer. And then what we need to do is to copy styles. And then over here, we want to select this section layer as well. We want to paste styles. So we need to do this one by one. Select this title, copy over here, right click, paste. And then this as well, let's copy. And then on the next line, let's right click and paste. Over here as well, let's copy, go to the next line, right click and paste. So firstly, we want to change the title to travel, for example. Let's change the heading color to maybe something blue. Let's remember the color code of this. Let's copy this. And then under this section layer, the border color, let's change this border color and paste the color code here. And as you can see, the border color is changed. So let's click here and then let's go to title settings. Let's change the title color. And now this is basically done. All we need to do is to change the post selection. So over here, let's select post. Let's click to remove the previous post. And then let's select a post from the travel. Let's select this, click select. And here we go. Now let's scroll to the bottom. Over here, we want to change the category selection to travel. And here we go. Let's update, refresh. And here we go. This is basically done. So we're basically done with this section. Let's go to our completed page and let's scroll down. And now we want to create this latest stories. Let's go back to our WordPress editor. Let's scroll down further. We want to select the right layer. We need to make sure that this is an entirely new layer and we have not selected the row layout over here. So we need to make sure that the layer we select is right above the document layer. Now let's select this. Now let's add a block and select row layout. We need a one column row and then we need to add a heading. Let's put the heading as latest stories. Let's change the heading color to maybe something purple. Like this. Let's remember this color code. Let's copy this. And over here, let's select this section layer. And then for the border width at the top, we want to put 5. And the border color, we want to change this code to the one we have just copied. And then we need to add a box shadow. Next, within this row layout, we want to add a post grid. So let's click on this and add block and select post grid. Let's select this for consistency. Now the number of items we want to put as 4. And then let's scroll down further to layout settings. We want to change this columns to 4 as well. And then let's go to post container. We want to remove the border width and click on this clear so that there won't be any borders. Let's scroll down further. Now for the below title meta, we want to toggle this off, but we want to show date and remove the category. And then let's scroll down further for the excerpt. We want to hide them. And as for the footer meta, we want to hide the tags as well. Let's update, refresh. Now the title is a little big, so let's change that. Let's go to title settings. Let's expand this. The font size, we want to change it to maybe 18. Let's update, refresh. Now this looks a little awkward, and this is because the line height is a little wide. So over here, the line height, let's select this EM. Let's change this to maybe 1.3. Let's update this and refresh and see how it looks like. So don't worry about this, because as you expand this, this will actually look quite neat. So let's give some padding to this latest stories. So let's click on this title layer and let's go to the spacing settings. Over on the left padding, we want to add maybe 25 pixels. Update, refresh, and here we go. So let's say we want to adjust the image. So let's select this layer, the post grid layer, and let's go to image settings. Let's change this to maybe a square image. Let's update and refresh. Does this look nicer to you? Maybe you want to add some padding at the side. We want to narrow this column gutter. So let's scroll up a little. Under layout settings, the column gap, we want to put it as maybe 10. So this gap is actually from the image. So let's go to image settings, and under image padding, let's open this up. And over on the left, let's put maybe a 10. And on the right, let's put a 10 as well. And let's update, refresh, and let's narrow the column gap even further. Maybe put 5. And then for the post container, let's remove this. Left and right padding. Now the final thing we need to do is to shift the title and text a little to the left. So let's scroll down. So over here on the left padding, we want to add 10. And let's update, refresh, and we are basically done. So let's expand this. So this is how it looks like. And we are basically done with the page elements here. So as we can see on the completed page, let us expand this. So we are done with this post carousel, we are done with this categories, and then we are done with this latest stories. The next thing we want to do is to add this sticky sidebar, and this can be done through hook elements as well. So let's go back to the WordPress dashboard by clicking this, and let's go to appearance and select elements. Now let's add a new element. So let's select default, and let's add a title for this element. Let's say sticky sidebar or whatever you want to call it. Let's click on this, and then let's add a block. Let's put a row layout. Let's select a one column row layout, and then let's add a block again. Let's select this post grid carousel again. And for the sticky sidebar, we want to select this template. And then for the number of items, we want to put this as 5. And then let's scroll down further. Under layout settings, we want to change the number of columns to 1. Now let's go to image settings because we want the image to be square instead of portrait like this. So let's go to image settings. Let's change the image ratio to 1:1. And then for the image width, we want to put this as 30%. And then let's scroll down further. We want to remove the excerpt. And then over at the below title meta, we want to show date, but we do not want this posted on. And then we want to show category as well, but we want to remove this posted in. And then for the meta divider, we want to select this line. And we are basically done. Now let's add a header. So let's scroll down. Make sure that the layer you selected is on top of the row layout layer. And then let's add block. And let's select advanced heading. Let's put a title as recent posts. And then we need to shift this heading up. So let's click on this arrow. Now let's add a line on top of this heading for design consistency. So let's select this section. And then under border width, at the top, we want to put a 5 pixels of border width. And then let's select the color. Let's say we want to give this purple. And we are basically done. Now over here, we want to select this element settings. Now for the placement, we want to expand this. And let's scroll below. And over here, you can see we have this replace sidebar option. So if you select this and then under display settings, you can show this either on the entire site or you can show this just on the front page. But for this example, I'll just show it on the front page. So let's select this and then let's publish. And let's go to the live page and refresh. So we'll see all this recent posts here. Let me expand this. So if you still want your sidebar widget, then you don't want to replace the sidebar. Let's close this panel. What you need to do is to select this. So instead of replace sidebar, we want to select maybe before sidebar. Let's update this. And then as we refresh and expand this out, you can see that all the sidebar widgets are still here, and the hook element is above the sidebar widgets. Now there is one very important setting that I did not do, which is to change the background color to white. As you can see over here, the content background is white, but the site background is a little gray. So what we need to do, if you are logged onto your WordPress back office, you'll see this bar over here. You can either click on Customize. If not, you can go back to your WordPress dashboard. So let's open in a new tab. So under Appearance, you want to select Customize. And then under General, and select Colors. For the site background, we want to select white color, and then let's publish this and let's refresh this, and you can see that the background color is now blended with the content color. Now there is some alignment issue here, as you can see. So it is either we push the content on the page up or we push the sidebar down. So for this case, let's push the sidebar content down. So let's go back to our elements, and then over here let's select this row layout, and then let's select this settings. And under padding and margin, for this top margin, we want to add 50, for example. Let's update this, and then let's refresh. And you can see that we have pushed this down too much. So maybe we want to push this down 30 pixels instead of 50. Let's select the row layout, padding and margin. Let's change this to 30, update. On the live page, let's refresh. And we are aligned over here, and that's great. And there's one more thing we need to do, which is to go to the theme customizer, which is under Appearance and Customize. And let's go back further. Let's go to General and Sidebar. Let's enable Sticky Sidebar. And let's publish this, and then let's refresh. And if you scroll down, we can see that this is sticking here, but then because there are too many elements on the sidebar, they have another scroll bar here, which is not what we want. So let's remove all these items here. So let's go back to our element settings. Let's go to element settings, and then let's change this to replace sidebar. And let's update. And then on the live page, let's refresh. And here we are. So the sidebar is now sticking. And we are done. Next, let's go to our completed page and scroll down. We want to create a section like this, and this is using hook elements as well. So let's go. Now to create something like this, let's go back to our element, and then let's click on this to go back to the WordPress dashboard. So we are on the elements page. Let's add a new element, and then let's select default. Then let's give it a title. Don't worry about the title, it will not be shown on the page. So now let's add block. Let's select row layout, and this time round we want to select this. And then next we want to add block, and then let's browse all. Let's select tabs, and then we want to select this template. So let's edit the tab. Let's put this as top stories. And then tab number 2, let's say it is health. Tab number 3, photography, and let's add tab. Change tab number 4 to travel, add a tab, and then the final tab, we will put this as finance. So we are basically done. Now let's select top stories, and then let's edit from here. So let's click on settings, and over here you can see that the desktop layout will be like this, and then on the mobile, we want to change it into the accordion style. I will show you how it look like in a while. So let's go back to the desktop version, and then let's select the content settings. The border color, we want to select black color, something like this. And then let's go to the tab title color settings. The title background, we want to clear the color so that the background will be transparent. And then on hover, let's change the color to the accent color. So as you can see, the background changes to the accent color. And then as we hover, the text color will be maybe white color. Let's see how it looks like. Kind of decent. And then for the active, let's say that the active background, we want it to be black color. And now it looks like this. So that's what we want. So we are basically done with the settings here. Let's add elements to each of the tabs. Let's add block, and let's add a row layout. Let's select 2 equal columns. And then on the left, let's add a block. Select post grid. Let's select this template. For the number of items, we want to put it as 1. And then for the layout settings, we put this columns as 1 as well. And then let's scroll down further. The excerpt, we want to change the length of excerpt to maybe 20 or maybe even 10. And then under post container, we want to remove the border color. change the border to 0 as well. And then we're basically done with this section. Let's add another section here. Let's select post grid and let's select this template. So over at the layout settings, we want to put this as one column. We do not want to display the excerpt. For the title settings, we want to change the size of this to maybe 18. And then for the below title meta, we want to show author. And for the image settings, we want to change the image ratio to square. And then because this is under the top stories tab, we can either filter the post by the tag that we have created, the APR tag. And the number of items, we can change this to 3. Or if you want, you can create a new tag. It's really up to you. There is no limit to how many tags you can add to each post. And then for this single post grid, we can actually filter this by APR as well. Now I want to show you something. If we toggle this show unique, this will basically exclude posts in this block from showing in others on the same page. So what it means is this. Let's toggle this on first, and I will show you in a while what is the difference. Okay, so we are basically done with this. Let's try this out. Let's go to element settings. Under the placement, let's put this after all content. And then for the display settings, let's put this as front page and let's publish. And over on the live side, let's refresh and let's scroll down. So this is the unique article. This best yoga locations, there is this duplicated post article here. So over on the live side, you will not see the same article here. And if you happen to toggle the unique content on the page itself, it will only show the article one time on the page. But on the after content, it will not be affected. So we are basically done with this. Now let's replicate this entire section on all these other tabs. So let's click on this row layout. Sorry, let's click on this again. And then let's select this row layout instead. And then let's click on this options. Let's copy this and let's go to the health category. Let's add a block paragraph. Let's right click and paste. So now because this is under the health category, let's click on this single post grid. Let's filter by category. And then over here as well, let's click on this other post grid and then filter by category under health. And let's remove this. So all these posts here will be under the health category. So we are done with this. Let's go to the photography category. And then let's do the same thing. Add a block, paragraph, right click, paste. Over here, let's remove this and then filter by category, photography. And then over here, let's filter category by photography as well. And then let's do the same for travel and finance. And we are basically done. Let's update this and let's refresh. And we can see that this section over here is basically done. For this health is showing no posts because we did not remove this. But basically for this single post, we should be selecting as an individual post. So let's select this and then let's update. And as we refresh, now as you can see over here, because you have selected the unique post option, all these posts will not show because it has been displayed once on other categories. So to solve that issue, let's just remove the show unique. And let's update, refresh, and we are done. So remember under the mobile view, we have selected the accordion. So let's see how it looks like as I change this to mobile view. As you can see over here, this is the accordion view. And if you want to edit this, let's select the tabs layer and under mobile view. So now, for example, on the mobile view, you want the top stories to be displayed initially. So let's go back to the desktop view. And for this set initial open tab, let's select tab number 1 and let's update this. And then let's refresh. And as you can see over here, the top stories tab is open up by default. And as you open up other tabs, this is how it looks like. So we are basically done with this section. Let's create the sidebar section. It's the same thing again. Depending on what you want to put, let's add block, post grid carousel, Let's select this, and depending on what you want to display is really up to you. Whether you want to have this section here is really up to you as well. I'm just showing you the possibilities and you can edit whatever you want. So number of items, we want to put this as 5. And then for the layout settings, we only want 1 column. We don't want the excerpt. And the below title meta, we want to show author or maybe the show category. The image settings, let's change the image ratio to square. And let's update. Let's expand this and refresh and see how it looks like right now. So this is a bit much. Let's reduce the size of the image. Under image settings, let's change this to 30%. Update, refresh, or if you want to make this even smaller, let's put this as 20%. And we are basically done. Let's push this section down a little. Under the section layer, the top padding, we want to push this down by maybe 50 pixels. Update, refresh, and let's push this down a little more. Maybe 60 pixels. Update, and refresh. And we're basically done. So as we can see here, we are almost done with this. We have a recent post sidebar stick to the side. And then as we scroll down, this will stop at the page elements and we have this section right here. Now the final thing we need to do is the footer. If we go to the completed page, this is how our footer look like. And it's basically the same thing again. We're gonna use hook elements to hook all this here and I'll show you how to do it. So let's go. So now let's create the final section of the page, which is the footer here. So to do that, let's add 2 new hook elements. So let's go to the elements page. Let's click on this. And then under elements, let's add new. And let's select default, add a title. Let's say footer 1. And then let's add a post grid. Select this template. Number of items we want to put as maybe 3. And then for the layout settings, number of columns, let's put this as 1. Image settings, the width, let's put this as 20%. And the image ratio, let's put this as square. Let's remove the excerpt. Now let me show you how to manage your editor's pick. Let's say for example, over here we have this editor's pick and every month this editor's pick will change. So how are we going to manage that? We're going to use tags again. So let's go to the elements page. Let's right click this WordPress logo and open up a new tab. And over at the post here, let's select all posts. So for example, we have 3 editors pick. So let's say this, we want to do a quick edit. And under tags, we'll create a new tag, for example, top picks. And then let's update. And then let's maybe select this as the top pick as well. And maybe this is our top pick as well. You want to add a comma every time you want to add a new tag. So let's select this and update. So we have basically 3 top picks here. And for example, if every month you want to change your top picks, all you need to do is to click on this tags under posts. And then you can basically see that the top stories over here, there are 4 top stories. You can click on this. You can do a quick edit, remove the tag, update. And then as you refresh, now there are only 3 top stories. And for the top picks, you can go to the tags again and see what is the current top picks or the editor's pick. You can either remove this and then you go to the all posts and add the top picks tag to whatever new post you want to select as the new editor's pick. So this is how you manage the magazine style website. So let's go back to the elements. And then over here, since you have created a topic tag, let's filter by tag under top picks and let's publish this. And we haven't done one thing, which is the element settings. Under the placement, we don't want to put any placement, but under the display settings, we want to show this on the entire site because this is the footer. So let's select entire site. Let's update this. This display settings is very important. If you leave this blank, whatever elements you create and whatever placement you put, it would not show. So this display settings is very important. Next, let's click on the WordPress icon. And as we see here under footer 1, there is this short code over here. We'll use this later on. But for now, let's create footer number 2. Let's add new. And let's click on default. And I want to show you one thing. If, for example, you have a blog that you have created and you want to paste it here. So let's go back. Let's go to footer 1. And then let's click on this post grid. Let's click on options. Let's copy this. And then let's go back. Let's add a new element. Let's put this as footer number 2. And then over here, let's right click and paste. And you will see all the settings from the previous blog we have created will be shown here. And then since footer number 2 is basically the top stories, let's click on this blog and select settings. Let's remove the top picks tag and add the APR tag. And we are done. Let's publish this. Oh, and I forgot the element settings. Under the display settings, let's put this as entire site. Update. And we are basically done. Next thing we need to do is to go to the theme customizer, which is over here. Let's refresh this. And just in case you forgot how to reach this page, let's close this off. Under your WordPress dashboard, under Appearance, Customize, you'll go back to the theme customizer page. So over here, we want to select footer. And as you can see, there are 3 rows for the footer. Let's scroll down all the way to the bottom. So this copyright text is basically what is represented here. Now we want to change the footer background color to black. So over here, select this. And then go to design. Let's change the bottom row background to black. And then the widget titles, we want to change it to white. The widget content, we want to change it to white as well. And then next, let's go back. Let's click and drag widget number 1 to the middle row here. And then let's click on this to select widget number 1. Let's add a widget. Let's click on custom HTML. So here's the fun part. Let's go to the list of elements we have created. Let's click on the WordPress logo. And here are the list of elements you have created. And then these are the shortcode for each of the elements. So for footer number 1, let's copy this shortcode. Control C. If you're on a Mac, then it's Command C. And then let's go to the customizer. Under the content of the widget number 1, let's Control V or Command V. And we will see this here. And then let's add a title. So this is editor's pick. And then let's edit the background color of this middle row. Let's select design. Under the middle row background, let's select black color. The widget titles, let's change this to white. Widget content, let's change this to white. For the link colors, let's change it to the accent color. Oh no, sorry, just change it to white color. And then as we hover, let's change this to the accent color. Now let's add another widget over here. So let's go back under footer, under general. Let's click and drag widget number 2 over here. And then you can either click this settings here or you can click this arrow. It will bring you to this. Let's add a widget, custom HTML. Let's go to the list of elements. Let's select this shortcode for footer number 2, copy this. And then over here, let's paste this. And then at the top, the title of the widget is top stories. And if we expand this, it looks like this. So don't worry about it stacking up like this on a theme customizer. So now let's add a search bar here. So let's go back. Let's drag a widget number 3 to the right column. And then let's select widget number 3 and add a widget. Let's scroll down and we can see this search over here. Let's select that and we'll see a search bar over here. And then next we want to add some social icons here. Let's go back. Over at the available items, let's drag this social right beside widget number 3. And we'll see some social icons here. So let's edit this. Let's go to social. And then first let's go to design. And then over here under use brand colors, let's select yes. So you'll see all these icons change to the brand color of the social platform. So let's go to general. If you want to add more social icons, like for example, Pinterest, you can do so, or maybe YouTube, or whatever you want to add, they are basically here. So if you want to add your social handles, you can scroll down and then under here, set social links, click on this, and then you can add whatever links you have for these social channels. So let's go back. And the final thing we need to do is to edit this footer text. So as we hover over here, we can actually select this, click on this, and then it will bring you to the elements for the copyright. So for the site title, if you want to change this, you can put this as maybe JC Magazine or whatever it is. And then for the team credit, we want to remove that. So you will not see the Kadence link here. And then we are basically done. Let's publish this and then go to the live page. Let's expand this and refresh. We have completed an entire magazine site. I really hope you like the magazine style page you have created. Now obviously this is not the best looking magazine site, but what I've shared with you are the fundamentals so that you can create an even better looking magazine site. And if you did manage to create one better than mine, feel free to share your link in the comments. I really hope to see my tutorial being put to practice, and that fills me up with joy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope it helped, and if I could get a thumbs up from you, I would really appreciate that. And if you have any questions or have any suggestions for a tutorial, feel free to leave a comment down below. All the best to you. Take care and stay safe.